Welcome to the One Player Podcast, the show on solitaire board games. I'm your host, Albert, and this is episode 358.
On these trails we blaze.
What?
Walking through the jungle and the wilderness.
I don't know this song. That was too short a song. I didn't recognize it. I needed more notes. Any notes would have done. Hello.
Hi, Albert. How are you doing today?
Doing all right. And we have a guest today.
Hi, I'm Haidvara.
Hello, Haidvara. I hope that's close enough. And Julius, that's Julius's daughter. The three of us are here today to talk about a game called Wild
Gardens.
Yep, which I had never heard of before.
So this is a game from Rose Gauntlet Games, designed by Isaac Vega. In Wild Gardens, you are foraging around a path going through, trying to collect materials, so like roots and vegetables and berries and nuts, trying to be able to create all sorts of vegetarian delicious dishes vegan, excuse me. All sorts of vegan dishes. I definitely know that the pescatarian of the family here would point this out to me. But all sorts of vegan dishes that you will then serve to people who you meet along the trail. And the goal is to have the most amount of points earned by reputation by serving and cooking these dishes by the end of technically 6 rounds.
And the subtitle in BGG is a strategy game about the delightful world of foraging.
Yes.
Which honestly sounds kind of funny. Because in my mind, when you're foraging, you're starving and you've been left abandoned in the woods and you're just trying to find berries that you could eat.
So the storyline more here is that you're hosting a restaurant in a garden, and around the garden there's bushes, there's water, there's flowers, there's grass. So you have all these different stuff. So there's like lettuce and berries and watercress and like seaweed sort of stuff. So lots of stuff there, and you're foraging from your garden. And then there's little tables there where you can serve, you can cook.
Okay, so actually it does sound delightful. It doesn't sound as grim as I imagined foraging is supposed to be.
And Haidvara definitely knows a lot more about the story. There's a whole story that's much more involved in the solo mode, which is delightful, but we'll get back to that later.
Actually, one of the stories says that you're like restocking and you're foraging in the forest. Like, one of them you find people, and they just start staring at you, and they're like, and then later on you discover like where they're from and their whole backstory and everything.
Or I guess we'll get to it now instead of getting back to it later.
Well, we'll circle around again later. Let us talk about we talked about the summary of the game. It's a game about foraging. What style of game is this?
What style of game is it?
It
is moving around a path, trying to collect resources and put them together. So it's resource management.
Oh, I have this detailed and pretty.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Go very much into the components.
Well, then let's do that. Let's talk about the components. What does this game have? It seems to have a bunch.
It's got some people. Pretty.
Would you like me to go through the components?
Yeah, sure. I'll comment on the art.
Okay. So let me talk about some of the more main components first. First, one of the main components that you have is going to be a path board. This is the primary board where your meeples are going to be walking around. So there's a path that goes around in essentially a big circle with a couple dividing off paths. And you have meeples.
The other side is just going straight.
You have meeples that are going around that path, one per each character. There are source tokens that are randomly placed around the board. The source tokens are each going to be essentially assigned to a specific spot on the path. And when you stop on a spot on the path, you look at which 3 source tokens border that spot. And those are the 3 different resources that you have access to. So, for example, if you are bordering some berries, some aquatic roots, and some mushrooms, so that those are the things that you can theoretically forage. We have the deluxe component for all those things. The game does come with cardboard versions of those source tokens, but we have some chunky wood source tokens that look really nice. The game also comes with ingredients tokens. So it comes with 80 cardboard ones, but again, we have the wood ones. And these are nice. They're shaped cutout cardboard tokens, the main one. Otherwise, they're shaped wood meeples with heat printed colors on them. They're very nice. They look like the 8 different resources that you can collect. There are these book tokens, which are, again, a really nice looking component. They are...
Oh.
I'm going to try and describe them because they were kind of shocking to me. They are wooden rectangles that have white printing around the outside edge, around 3 of the 4 outside edges, so essentially the pages of the book, and then the top of it is printed to look like the cover of a book. These are going to go over on a library board. Over the course of the game, you'll have the chance to check out these books, and they're associated with different source tokens. So if you buy a berry source token, you can check out a berry book.
You can also return them.
True. Those source tokens are going to be able to give you skill tokens. Skill tokens are how you upgrade your player board and upgrade your actions. Speaking of a player board, every player has a player board. Really, the primary purpose of this is just for organization purposes, so you know what skill tokens have upgraded which actions. But in general, you have 3 different actions that are going to be represented on your player board, and you'll assign skill tokens to them, and you'll assign your action tokens to them.
I also feel like the player boards give a little bit of like a kind of make your own story, but I feel like they give a little bit of your personality and like where they grew up. So like beachy, foresty, posh.
We'll definitely talk about how these components help us live out the thematics when we get back to the thematics. But yes, certainly the player boards help with that. Each player for their color is going to have the meeple I talked about before. They're going to have a set of action tokens. The action tokens are going to be the things that you use to assign both how far around the board you're walking and which of the 3 different types of actions you go. Each player has a victory point token. So there's a victory point track, which is 0 to 50. And there's these tokens that you use to track how many points you have, very similar to many of them. There are actually some jars which are tracked on that victory point track, and it's just essentially a bonus set of victory points. In terms of cards, there's 3 different types of cards. They're recipe cards. The recipe cards and the art on all these things is big and gorgeous and dynamic, but each of the recipe cards has printed on the bottom of them the specific ingredients that you need to have. So you might want a berry smoothie, and that might require some berries and some flowers. And so I have a big picture of a berry smoothie and some berry flowers on the bottom, and it'll show that it's specifically a drink type. And on the back of it will have like berries showing. There are guest cards. And again, the guest cards have big full art for the different ones of them. They'll show the guest. They'll show the special power the guest gives you once you serve them, and also what it is that they want. So for example, a guest may want to have specifically a drink and a lunch. Or they may want to have chef's choice, which is you can feed them whatever it is that you want. There are location cards. Every 3 rounds, so at the beginning and then at the 4th round, there'll be 2 locations that are going to come out, and those locations will essentially have a start of round special bonus that comes out that keeps things a little bit fresher. The game comes with some cards, with some bags. It's easy to help hold the skill tokens and to help randomize the source tokens, but barring that, I believe that covers all of the actual components. I'm going to throw it over to Chaidvar and see if she wants to make mention of her thoughts on any of the components.
Yeah, I want to hear that because the Julius, you did a terrible job of describing how nice the components look, and we need somebody else to do that.
Chaidvar, how nice are the components?
Did you do the victory point track?
I did.
Yeah. The art is amazing. There's great shading, very big attention to detail, and each time makes me want to kind of like jump in and just like eat the entire thing. The victory point track is double-sided. One side has little circles, which I think is nice, so that you kind of know where to put each thing, so it's not like... But the other side looks nicer. I don't know.
That's the component you moved to when we were talking about how nice the components are? Is the victory point track?
I don't know what to talk about. I like the art.
Oh, the art is... I like the books. The books are super cool because they're little...
The books are really nice, yeah.
They're little tiny books is what they look like, little miniature books, but you can't open them because they're wooden blocks. But they're little tiny itty bitty books. They're super cute. Yes. All the icons are cute. I like all the icons on the resources you could collect. The art on the cards is really nice. Like the dandelion pancake looks delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that the art of the cards is spectacular. There is a bunch of individual recipe cards, and we again have the expansion stuff, so we have an extra 30 cards, I think, for that. So there's a whole bunch of unique recipes. Each one is unique with a unique piece of art, and all of it looks delicious. All of it looks like things that I want to have.
Make it sound really good as well. Like
Yeah.
they enhance the looks of the food, makes it sound more delicious. Like the apple pie, it's not just apple pie; it's mom's apple pie, which just enhances it by a ton.
Yeah,
yeah, and I don't think it's real food. It's all airbrushed, I think.
Oh, it's not real pictures. What do you mean?
No, I know. I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you people. Yeah, no, the art is all really nice. It's all drawings. It almost looks Studio Ghibli-ish in style.
Could be.
There's one card, number 148, one of the guests, Luna. It's this lady wearing a shark costume.
That could be.
I don't think I've ever seen her.
It's one
of the pictures on BGG. Yeah, this is number 148, so there's tons. But yeah, she's wearing a shark costume. It's just the most ridiculous little thing.
There's also one that I clearly remember. It's the prickly pear sorbet, which has its pink sorbet, similar to the color of the berry smoothie, and it's in this beautiful glass bowl that has like these little rainbow reflections like coming all around it, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Kind of blinding.
They've gone overboard with the depth that they've gone for the art. The art is just amazing. The locations is really good. The characters is really good. Everything really just bleeds theme and just makes you hungry while you're playing the game.
That's what I was thinking. It'd be hard to play and not eat.
The rule book too, like even that, it's its own art piece in itself because there's a cute little ones they call
the little ones. They're characters in the cards.
Right. There's the little cute little ones just all around, just like interacting sometimes. Like there's one on the front on the page I'm looking at right now. It's chasing a little ladybug. It's really cute.
Yeah.
Now I don't think you mentioned it, but the board appears to be double-sided.
The board is double-sided. There's two paths that you have. One of them, the path is itself going around in a circle. The other one goes in a circle because it's essentially a line that you finish and then go back to the other side and restart. So it is a circle, just it's a circle and a line.
Okay. I gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
There's no practical difference between them, just two different styles of look.
Okay. All right, so the components are great.
Yes.
I think we have said that a bunch. Let's move on to the theme.
So in terms of theme, I've mentioned that the theme is bleeding out from all over the place, that there's this idea that essentially you're a wildlife chef, a naturalist chef, where I assume that the idea is that you are, famous for being able to create natural ingredients and serve something natural. And all of that comes out of everything that's being presented about the idea of these recipes, the ideas of these foods, how well it is that they interact. The game continues to push that theme, and the game will continue to push that theme even more once you have the stories and once you have those character ideas and coming through to it. So the game very much displays all of that, as well as being widely diverse, I think, from the different characters and the different types of people that are being represented.
Yeah.
Kind of agrees.
Okay. All right. Well then let's talk about the rules next then. We already talked about how nice
the rule book itself looks very nice. I think almost every game it is that I play with Kaidavara, I read the rule book and I teach her the rules from it. But in general, I think the rule book, I don't have any issues with it. It describes how it is that you win, how it is that you're going through it. So rulebook it's perfectly fine. No issues with it. It's very clear. It includes quick set of icons on the back to make sure that you have a quick reference for everything. It includes the basic ways it is that you play. It's put in order for how to step through the turns. So yeah, A+ rulebook.
And then the solo mode, the instructions to that, it's really simple. It's the regular rules and then a couple modifications to that.
Yeah, we'll get back to discuss the solo mode at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw that there at the end says it's just like the normal game, but with these changes. But it also mentions a solo scenario book. One thing that's interesting I'm noticing about this game is that it looks so family friendly. It's like little kids are gonna love playing with it, but it says
There's
it's
a lot of
14
little
plus.
pieces, and it's slightly complex because you have to figure out like how many things do I want to move. I can only use this one once, and then which one do I want to give up at the end of the game, at like the end of the round.
Yeah, perhaps this is an idea to get through the gameplay, but I'll mention it now. The game looks adorable and cute, but it is not a lower weight game.
Mm-hmm.
It is not really like, I'll use a term that I don't like so much, a family type game. It is not a lower weight game. It has some complexity to it because you do have to plan out your turns to do well. You have to find an engine between the different upgrades, between the different guest cards, between the way the board is laid out to realize where's the good places to go. You have to find an engine that allows you to get ingredients efficiently and turn those ingredients into points efficiently. And being able to plan out where those ingredients are and how it is that you're going to be using those requires a certain amount of skill that I think raises the level of weight of the game.
Okay, so it seems like this game could frustrate younger players that they think, oh, this is super cute, I want to play this. Instead, it might be a toy for them where they're running around the board and just visiting different locations and talking to their friends.
Yeah, if they're just playing it to have fun and they're not doing it competitively, well then, yeah, fine.
I think
but if they're being competitive, they don't.
Yeah.
I think that the solo mode is possibly a little bit easier to play with little kids because there's not as much complexity. You don't have to play competitively. You can just move around. You don't have to plan out your turns as much, but there's still that, and there's a little story to entertain too. So it's not as much, but it still definitely has some difficulty to it.
Man, I don't trust my kids with my games.
Yeah, I one time I got home from work and my son, he was probably 3 at the time, came up to me really proud with a rulebook from one of my games and showed me how he had learned to write on the back of the rulebook. It was scribble, scribble, scribble all over the back. And he was so proud. What can I say? Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, that you're right, Julius. Keep kids away from games. That's games are not for kids.
Did you replace the rulebook?
Oh no, I've kept it. It's a cute memory, honestly. It didn't ruin it or anything. It's just a bunch of scribble at the very end, like in the credits or something like that. It's if wishes were fishes. I normally we don't really talk about how kid friendly it is, but the game just looks so oriented towards kids that it's worth pointing out that it really isn't, which I find interesting.
To give a little bit more discussion on how it is that you select actions, each player has 5 different action tokens: a 1, 2, 3, and 4, and a wild. On your turn, you will first pick an action token that you have available. So if you've already used a 4 earlier in the round, you no longer have access to it. The action token will first determine how many spaces it is that you walk around the board. And as mentioned, the different spaces have different source tokens associated with them. So you may, by walking 4, not have access to the stuff that you want. Or there are only tables in certain spaces, and you're only allowed to cook food or serve food at a table. So if you only have access to a 4, and there's not a table at a 4, you're stuck. So sort it out. So everyone has access to those 5.
So that means you would use the 4 because that's all you have, and it's basically a wasted turn or something like that, or just a non-optimal turn.
Make use of the turn, do something less optimal, but yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, you have access to those 5 tokens. You'll pick one of them, and that will determine how many spaces that you move. You'll then place the action tokens on one of the 3 spots on your board. You can either use the action token to forage, which means that you will select ingredients from whatever sources that you have. So if you end your turn by a berry, you can select a berry. You can cook. If you end your turn at a table, you can turn in ingredients and take one of the recipe cards. That will score you points, so the different recipes have different amount of points. It'll then go over in your cooked cooked recipes area. You can serve. There's essentially a river of available recipe cards and available guest cards. So if you're at a table, you'll pick one of the guest cards, and if you have the stuff they want, so the guest may want a drink and a dinner, you'll discard the drink and dinner of the recipe cards that you previously cooked, and then you'll take those guest cards. And again, the different guest cards are worth different amount of points and have different types of abilities. So some of them have instant abilities, some have abilities that are permanent and over time, some of them have abilities that are at the end of the game and give you extra points, and some of them will give you jars. Jars are printed, you get one on your board, and various characters have them. When you have abilities that let you move a jar, which commonly comes to the end of the round if you choose to do it, but if you have something that lets you move jars, you will move your jar token on the victory point track, one for every jar that you have associated with the characters and cards or anything else that you have owned. So at least one for the one that's just standard, and then you'll just keep moving that around. So that is two types of actions we have so far. That's forage and cook or serve. The second type you have is check out a book or reserve. So if you take the last one, you will check out a book. You will look at which source tokens are near you, which ones you're associated with, and you can check out a book and take the accompanying skill token for it, and that will enhance one of the three types of actions. So it might give you an extra forage, so when you cook and serve you can forage, or you can forage twice if you forage. It might give you the ability to turn in specific ingredients for points. It might give you the ability to turn recipes for points. It might give you an extra jar. All sorts of different things coming from those. And that's checking out book. The last option you have is reserving. If you find yourself where you don't want to be able to play anything, don't want to be able to take out ingredients, whatever the reason is, you can just reserve any of them, put it over in your reserved area, so now only you have access to that card and only you can turn in stuff for it. Plus, you pick up 2 extra points. Everyone will take one action where they are putting down an action token, moving the amount of spaces printed on it, and taking an action wherever you put it down. Once everyone has done enough that they've used up all their action tokens, we will then have an end of day event. Each of the locations on the location board have 4 quadrants listed on their back. So you'll have a location that you're visiting that is face up to show the special start of round bonus that everyone gets. And then the back of another card will show the special end of day bonus that everyone can get. And you'll note it's in 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3, and 4. You will have to take one of your action tokens and essentially sacrifice it to the location board and get the bonus associated with that. So you might play action token 1 to give you some extra ingredients, or action token 4 to get some jar movement. Whatever it is you pick, it's there. And so for either the entire first half of the game or the entire second half of the game, you're going to be lost from that action token. So the first round, you'll have all 5 action tokens. The second round, you only have 4. The third round, you only have 3. At the end of the third round, you'll get them all back, and you'll do that again. But the third round's going to be shorter because you only have 3 actions left. And if you decide that you want to give up your 4 to the location board, you don't have access to that 4 for like the next 2 rounds. It's going to be moving slower. You won't have access to spots you want when you're like, I really need the 4. So it can be tough.
That's what the wild's for.
Yes.
So I only give my wild last.
One thing that also lets you move around a little bit faster when you're moving things around is you skip over spaces that other meeples are in. This isn't relevant at all for solo mode, which is perhaps a little bit of a bummer with the solo mode. But if there's multiple people around, you can skip over spaces. So if you really need to get some bark, for example, for an ingredient, for a recipe, and someone else is in that bark spot or moves in the bark spot right before your turn, you got to sit and go back to the tank and figure out what is it I'm going to do instead because I needed that bark. Or someone's in a table. All the tables are filled and you needed a table. You got to go back in the tank and figure out what to do instead.
It might be a bummer because you can skip over people. But like you just said, if you need a bark and somebody's sitting on the bark, that's a rare ingredient and it's not easy to get. So in solo mode, you could just go there. You can't skip over people, but there's the plus and minuses.
That's true. But I do like this is already getting to final points. I do like that interplay between the different players. The game feels mostly like nice. We're not killing each other. This is not a war type game where I'm trying to defeat the other person. But I will say there is that interplay that you have with multiplayer on the board, with trying to snipe out recipe cards before someone else gets one, or trying to snipe out spaces to make sure you have a table, or where you're really hoping that someone else lands in a space right in front of you so you can get the bonus to get a little bit further to get to the bark. So all of that interplay feels really nice in multiplayer. So I just simply wanted to, I suppose, mention that. The game will end after...
Not again kid friendly if you're going to be like taking actions that they wanted.
If you're going and sniping someone's recipe, like you see someone's got 8 ingredients towards a recipe, and you're like, I'm just going to get 2 points and deny you that card. You absolutely can't. It's a good way to have no friends.
Yes,
and
we're
no
kids
anymore.
We're kids if you're playing with family. Yeah.
So the game continues over 6 rounds. And at the end of those 6 rounds, you will total up all of your points, see if you have any bonus points, and end the game and clean up.
Okay. It sounds really cool.
I mean, you don't have to clean up. You can just play again. and then again. And again.
That's true.
I think that suggests that Heidevar enjoys it. I will say some points that I particularly... some points that I particularly enjoy about it. The idea that the action tokens give you a limited amount of spaces you can move adds a ton to the amount of depth that go into your decisions, because you have to plan out, if I go to this turn, then I can get these ingredients here. The next time I can go 1 and get to the table. But if I don't do this, then I won't be able to the table and I won't get this ingredient. So I'm limited because there's this ingredient that I need for this recipe to be able to get this guest. And gosh, you can go into the tank and figure out all these different things and how it is that you want to go on. There's a lot of decision-making spots, a lot of opportunity to think real hard about how it is that you want to win at that. And chef's kiss, that all feels real good. An issue I have. Some of the skill tokens and some of the characters feel really powerful. And it feels like sometimes you're like, I need to keep hunting until I get one of those that feel really powerful. So, for example, there's skill tokens that instantly let you trade in every recipe card without any issue for 3 points. And so that means you don't have to then go sell them, give them to guest cards to score points. You just instantly do that, and that saves you a bunch of actions.
That's also another strategy that I like. My strategies are stock up on jars and then use all the jars I can get, and also that specific skill token, because instead of having to go to a table, cook, and then go to another table and serve, I can just go to table, cook, and then get immediately 3 points.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
And I think that there are some guest cards that are just better, much better. Like the little ones, it is a single guest card. And at that point in time, at the end of the game, without limit, for every full set of 8 ingredients you have, you get 10 points. And you can grab the little ones early and then just start spending the rest of the game, just get as much ingredients as you can. And at the end of the game, simply turn in a giant pile of tokens and get 90 points. And you're like, that was super easy. Lost a bunch of depth of the game because I'm not cooking. I'm not serving. I'm just getting a ton of points from these little ones, and there is no limit for them. Some of the other ones don't have that.
What do the little ones do?
I just said it. Every full set of 8 ingredients gets you 10 points.
Okay. I wasn't paying attention.
I could tell. So, and we're leaving that one in.
What?
And we're leaving that in. So, some of them have more limits to them. Some of them have more difficulties. I've said, I know it's true when you're designing, but it's also true when you're playing. Adversity, limits, brings out those decision points and makes things better. Whenever there's a push-pull, whenever you're having to give something up for your decision, and there's a push both ways, those make for the most delicious types of decisions. When something is just easy, free, clear,
Yep.
That sort of just ruins it a little bit.
They are most definitely the delicious decisions because you're making delicious recipes.
Exactly.
Was that a pun?
That counts for a pun, yes.
Was that intended?
I mean, did you intend it?
Did you intend it? You made it.
I did not. You made it. So, yeah, that is a con I have for the game.
What's a con?
But I think for me, that more just ties into the personality for when I come to a game. If I've already played a game where I said, hey, last time I played the game where I wanted to get a ton of points doing jars, I won't be like, I have to win this time, and I know that's a really good strategy, so I'm going to do jars again. I'm going to pick a different strategy. I'm going to, for example, I've won once, but a little once, where I turned it in for 100 points. I won't do that again. I don't feel the need that just because I had a winning strategy that I have to do that winning strategy again. I want to explore other strategies. I want to explore other cards and do different things. And there's a lot of other different things that the game can present, a lot of different tracks that you can do and pull through on it. And the ability to have that diversity is powerful and enjoyable and brings me back.
Now, I would assume that if you play multiplayer and the other person sees you going for the jars again, they're going to say, wait a second, he killed me the last time because he got so many jars and he used that strategy. So I'm just going to stop him by blocking those spaces and that sort of thing.
Well, what you would have to do is you'd have to start reserving or taking the characters with jars and essentially start competing on jars and not let them get all of the jars.
Okay, and that's true with many games. If you let one person run away with everything, like Star Realms comes to mind. If you let a person get all the cards of one color, there's a good chance they'll win.
It's not even just all the jars. Like, it needs to literally be all the jars because even just, 3 or 4 jars can make a very big, impactful difference because the jars are skipping, 3 rows at a time. And if they're skipping that and they're doing that, every round, that's going to be big.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement that come out of jars. I don't think it's very easy to stop them, but I haven't tried it yet.
Last time I was playing solo, I got, 106 points because of jars. That was it was
not sure you can do that.
It was a lot of points from jars. No, it was all of my points combined. It was all the way to max out of jars.
Wow.
And
and all the other points.
And 40 points.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's just a matter that don't do all the obvious easy plays. Is what it feels like to me.
Mm-hmm. And if we play with Julius, watch out for those obvious easy plays. He's going to beat you.
I may tell you about them.
Well, yeah, there we go. Well, you just did, so forget it. You can't win now. All right, so I want to hear the overview, and I want to hear about the solo play now. How's it different?
So for solo, obviously you're playing solo, and there isn't anyone else there to interact with or pull cards away. So the game doesn't have any sort of randomizers. Various different games I've seen have an automa that sort of simulates other players as they're moving around the board and blocking stuff off and taking recipe cards and discarding cards. None of that, for the most part, is really present. Really, the biggest differences for the solo mode are going to be various scenarios. Rather than playing the game as written, you'll have a scenario, and the game comes with a book of different solo modes, of different solo scenarios, rather. And if you have some of the expansion stuff, it comes with even more that you can print off. But each of those different scenarios have different sort of presentations as the changes. And Clyde Rose played more of those solo scenarios. I'll defer to her on that.
I played 3.
Some of them have it be where you have a limited amount of guests that you're offering, or where there's limits on which ingredients are available, or how it is that you interact with the ingredients to be able to get them. Some of them have differences in the order you go around it. Some of them have differences in how things go away. Some of them are shorter games, some of them are longer. There's a lot of different scenarios, and they mix things up. It sort of feels like you're playing the game, just playing the game with achievement mode type stuff.
Okay, yeah.
There's also little, you can call them side quests, I suppose, which is also another achievement, so I guess it is kind of an achievement. Then there's, the main milestone, which is your main storyline.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say it's more like an Alex playing a video game, except that you're choosing to play the video game where you can only make breakfast, lunch, and then dinner, or where you can only pick from a limited amount of guests. These type of things.
Yeah.
Or even there's just on some of the games that I've played, it's just one guest where you have this guest, and some of them, like after you complete that one guest, they'll give you like 3 guests, and you can pick the main one, and then after that, the other ones will probably go away, or you can pick the side quest ones and do the main one later. But make sure you have enough time to do all of them.
Yeah, so the core gameplay is the same type of loop, no automa, just sort of different stuff being available.
Mm-hmm.
The game felt to me before I played the solo scenarios, felt to me like there had to be more story behind some of these characters because the life of the world just feels so alive between the art and the characters. And when you play through the solo scenarios, they have full-on stories. So kind of like the stories include with Arkham Horror. It's just enough to be able to bring it in, just enough to be able to give you a teaser and be able to make you live out the game that you're playing.
I think that the first time I played the game, I looked at all the art and the player boards, and I flipped them over, and there was no backstory on the other side. I was like, there's all this art with all the detail. I'm shocked they don't have a backstory. They do, in fact, have backstories for all the guests, not your players, but you can make your own backstory. But for all the guests, there's like detailed backstories and like stories that go along with each of them.
Why they're here, what they want, stuff like that.
It depends for each scenario too, but it's really nice.
This sounds like a really neat game. It sounds like it's just a fun experience with a ton of variety too, because there's so many different guests and recipes and all that.
Yeah, I'd say the level of presentation of it is over the moon. It is a beautiful looking game in terms of art, in terms of components. I'd say the gameplay is pretty deep. There's a lot when you're doing the sort of resource management to be able to collect up towards recipes. There's a lot of decisions on which directions you can go and hoping that stuff you want doesn't disappear in advance. The solo mode is really well implemented, very, very dynamic, very much feels invested, feels involved. You're living in the world. So all of it is really highly recommended from me.
Oh, okay. I see there's a lore book that you could also buy. Do you have that?
I think I'm not sure what lore book you're talking about. Are you talking about the scenario book?
No, it's on the website. It's called the Wild Gardens Lore Book. Discover the deeper world of Wild Gardens with this captivating lore book. With 80 pages of delightful content, this hardcover book is bursting at the seams with stunning artwork, hidden lore, and many other surprises that await curious readers.
Can we have it?
I don't have it, and no, we can't have it.
Why not? Why not?
So I'd rather buy another board game.
But you like deluxe stuff. This is deluxe.
It's not the board game.
This is as deluxe as you. It makes the game so much more immersive.
Could be.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is the solo book.
Later, I'll show you later.
It's got a pine nut pesto pizza scenario. Yeah, the picture looks like it has a scenario or a recipe. Maybe it's a recipe.
Oh, it's got actual. No, the pine nut pesto pizza is an actual. It's an actual recipe.
Is it a recipe book or a story?
You guys are gonna have to get it and let us know.
It's both, Daddy.
That's pretty cool. That is really neat.
Thank you, Albert.
Oh, these are the same people that make other games like Keystone.
Yes.
Did we mention that at the beginning? And I just missed it?
No.
Okay. I remember Keystone.
Yeah,
wasn't
they did Keystone. Yeah. I think this is the second game by Rose Gauntlet. They have a set of 4 that are currently out on Kickstarter, but I think this is only their second thing.
Yep, that's what it looks like. Keystone. There's Turnip. Turnip is at my game store, I think. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that one.
You have a game store?
Well, no, the one at my friendly local game store, the one I visit every Monday. I was there today. They have this game Turnip. It's a small card game. So they've got a few games. Interesting. I don't know. I don't think that one has solo on it.
So that is Wild Gardens.
No book.
And no book.
No, but plenty of delicious dinner, and I'm hungry, so I think it's time to go take a break and get some food.
You can order it the brought 5 books inside. More food.
That's good point. The game brings 5 books already, doesn't it?
The what?
The game already brings 5 books.
The game already has 5 books?
Yeah, 5 little tiny books in it. 5 little recipe books.
Oh, it's got 8.
8 books. Look at that.
8 books. Yes, but none of those are pesto pizza. Books. I'm hungry. It's time for dinner.
You haven't opened them. They might. Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye, everybody.
Julius has to eat.
Thanks for listening. We love feedback, so we love hearing from you. You can reach me at julius@oneplayerpodcast.com or JLBird on BGG, and Albert can be reached at albert@oneplayerpodcast.com or Fractaloon on BGG. Our website is oneplayerpodcast.com with the number 1, and we're also on Twitter at oneplayerpodcast. The intro music is copyright Angus, can be found at jamendo.com. The transition music is copyright by Dan Elduce Pancaldi, whose page is at donpancaldi.com. The One Player Podcast is protected under a Creative Commons share-alike license. Thanks for listening.